On today's episode of Locked On Oilers, we key up the massive matchup between the Edmonton Oilers and the New York Rangers. All that and much more in today's episode of Locked On Oilers.
You're Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Oilers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host and former Oilers game day producer, Brett Holden. As mentioned on today's episode, we're going to start off with a little preview of the game between the Edmonton Oilers and the New York Rangers, as the Oilers have some lineup news. And they're pretty interesting lineup changes. I'm not a big fan of it. We'll talk about that in a second. But also on today's episode, the 3 keys to victory for the Oilers over the New York Rangers, as this is a big game for the Oilers trying to get their feet back under them. 2 straight losses in overtime or a shootout for the Oilers. So they need to get winning points. How can they do that against the Rangers? We'll talk about that, and we'll wrap up with the Edmonton Oilers Prospect Report. Now, some unfortunate news coming out of the WHL for the Edmonton Oilers and one of their prospects. We will talk about that and what may be going on around one of their players. All that and much more on today's episode of Locked On Oilers. Thank you for making Locked On Oilers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you find your podcast. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And where we are going to get started is with the Edmonton Oilers and the New York Rangers. A quick little preview of the game for the Oilers as we look at the lineup for the Oilers. As Kailer Yamamoto has been activated for the Edmonton Oilers, but that also means that they have to finagle some cap space somehow, and the Edmonton Oilers did so. We will take a look at the lineup first, and then we will tell you how the Oilers got to this point. Right now, the Edmonton Oilers lineup looks like this. At least we can conceive this is what the Oilers lineup will look like. No practice for the Oilers today, so we will know lines closer to puck drop, but this is our projected lineup for the Oilers. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on the top line with Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman. Evander Kane on the second line with Leon Draisaitl. And Kailer Yamamoto slots in as the second line right winger. Matthias Janmark on the third line with Ryan McLeod and Warren Foegele. Klim Kostin on the fourth line with Derek Ryan and Jesse Puljujärvi, who at times was arguably the Oilers' best line in that game against the Red Wings. On defense, Darnell Nurse and Cody Ceci, Brett Kulak alongside Tyson Barrie, and Philip Broberg alongside Evan Bouchard. Now, we did not get a goaltending update for the Edmonton Oilers, but we can probably assume it'll be Jack Campbell in the net for the Oilers. In this one, he took on probably his best game of the season against the Rangers earlier this year. And then Stuart Skinner had one of his best games of the year against the Colorado Avalanche, who happens to be the Edmonton Oilers' next opponent. So probably seeing something there. We will know during warmups. Now, you probably can see 2 very notable names not in that lineup for the Edmonton Oilers, and that is Dylan Holloway and Vincent Desharnais. Vinny Desharnais and Dylan Holloway have been loaned, and I put in air quotes because this is merely a paper transaction, I am sure, but they have been loaned to Bakersfield in order to activate Kailer Yamamoto. Why? What is the point in doing so? Why are you taking out 2 players who have been playing very good hockey recently, and Vinny Desharnais arguably more valuable to this team than most of the defensemen on the Oilers right now, to put in Kyler Yamamoto for his first game in 12 games? Against a very good opponent in the New York Rangers who just acquired Vladimir Tarasenko? I mean, we're going to go over their lines in just a second, and it is a very, very deadly team. And the Edmonton Oilers are going into it willingly without one of, if not their best shutdown defenseman in Vinny Desharnais. Their most difficult defenseman to play against in Vinny Desharnais. And Dylan Holloway has been playing very well outside of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. There have been some plays that Dylan Holloway makes that you sit there and go, wow, that is a high IQ play or a very, very good hockey play. And he's been playing better defensively. He's been playing well in his own end. He's been getting great opportunities. And now you're bringing in a guy who I assume has been relatively at 100%. But there's the question marks around it. I know he's a top 6 talent on this team. But when the Edmonton Oilers have been playing the hockey they have been with the lineup they have, why? Especially with the fact that when you go 12-6, the Oilers lost. And then the Edmonton Oilers' defense and penalty kill were outplayed by the Detroit Red Wings forward and power play units without Vinny Desharnais in the lineup. I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. I understand you got to do something, but that's not... I don't want to project a loss for the Oilers at all, because obviously anything can happen. But I don't like the way this is looking for the Oilers. With that being said, let's look at the flip side for the New York Rangers heading into this one. Chris Kreider on the top line alongside Mika Zibanejad and, oh yeah, that guy named Vladimir Tarasenko. Their second line are Temi Panarin, Vincent Trocheck, and Jimmy Vesey. Alexis Lafreniere is on the third line. Yes, former first overall pick Lafreniere on the third line with Philip Hedl and Capo Caco, who has been actually, that line has quietly been very good for the Rangers over the last couple of games. Philip Hedl, I think, is not getting the attention that he truly does deserve right now. He has been just scoring at an absolute clip. So watch for Philip Hedl and that line in general with Caco and Lafreniere tonight. And Barclay Goodrow on the fourth line alongside Jake Leschyshyn and Julien Gauthier for the Rangers. They make up the fourth line. On defense, Ryan Lindgren alongside Adam Fox. By the way, Lindgren also one of those very underrated defensemen, I find. Keandre Miller, who's having a coming out year over in New York as well, alongside Jacob Trouba. That is a punishing defensive pairing for the Rangers. And on the third pairing, Niko Mikkola, who also came over in that Tarasenko deal alongside Schneider on that pairing. And Igor Shesterkin was the first goaltender off the ice for the Rangers at practice, so he will be getting the start. Now, the Edmonton Oilers enter this game 30-19-6, looking for that 31st win. The Edmonton Oilers are 9-1-3 in their last 12, where the New York Rangers enter this game 32-14-8 with 72 points on the season. They are sitting third in their division. Now, there are a couple of night and day things coming into this one between these two teams. One of them being the power play and the penalty kill between the two teams. The Oilers, obviously, with the best power play in the league, sitting at 31.1%, and the Rangers sitting 13th in the league with 22.6%. Now, the penalty kill, however, we all know the Edmonton Oilers struggles, especially as of late, looking at the Montreal Canadiens game and the Detroit Red Wings game. The Edmonton Oilers sit 27th in the league with their penalty kill, where the Rangers sit 10th on their PK with an 80.9. The Edmonton Oilers might not be in a very good spot when it comes to special teams in this one. They may get overpowered, but we shall see. The Edmonton Oilers don't have Desharnais, don't have a great chance or haven't had a great output, at least recently, on the back end and especially with the penalty kill. So that might be an issue for the Oilers. The other thing as well is the goals for and the goals against per game between these two teams. The Edmonton Oilers sit first when it comes to goals for per game, and they are sitting at a 3.73 clip, The New York Rangers, very good, top third in the league with a 3.37. But the goals against is where it kind of goes against the Oilers here. The Rangers sit fifth at a 2.65, and the Oilers 21st in the league with a 3.22. So great defense for the Rangers, not so much for the Oilers, and the Edmonton Oilers decided to take out one of their best defensemen, as of late at least, in Vincent Desharnais. That all leads to me to believe it might not be a great game for the Oilers. Either way, how can the Oilers make it a great game for the Oilers? Well, we have the 3 keys to victories for the Oilers in just a second. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories? Then you gotta try Built Bar. Listen, I know we're just getting through the holidays. We just got past January, which is when you really commit to your New Year's resolutions, and mine was to eat a little healthier. Yes, I got a little tummy on me, in case you didn't know, and I wanted to do so without sacrificing taste, because we all know that's the best part of eating, and that is exactly what we get with Built, and you gotta try Built. Healthy is actually tasty with Built. Seriously, they're so delicious, you won't think they're good for you, and perfect for your New Year's resolution. So what makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, it's probably the fact that they use 100% real chocolate. Yes, real chocolate. And they come in a whole bunch of unbelievably delicious flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. You can go on and on about the delicious flavors that they have. And you just couldn't stop. They are so good. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste exactly like candy bars, all while maintaining amazing macros. And whatever it is they do to stay healthy, that is exactly what they do. Only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein, all with a Built Bar. Head to Built.com right now to get your next box of Built Bars. You can thank me later. Alrighty, let's move on to the 3 keys to victory for the Edmonton Oilers over the New York Rangers tonight. The first one being convert on momentum opportunities. The Edmonton Oilers against the New York Rangers, or against the Detroit Red Wings, were unable to convert on the momentum opportunities. They tied the game up in the third period. They had all the momentum in the world, and they couldn't tie it in the third period. Then you get to overtime, you get Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl out there, and you go, okay, this game's basically in the bag. Oh, okay, never mind. We're going to a shootout. You got Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Zach Hyman. You got a whole bunch of talent. Oh, Pius Suter just won the game for the Red Wings. And the Edmonton Oilers walk away with a loser point. The Edmonton Oilers go into Montreal, a game that they should have won, go down 3-0. They have all the momentum in the world, almost tie it up, and they give the puck away and lose the game big time. The Edmonton Oilers need to convert on their momentum chances or opportunities, especially against a team like the New York Rangers, a really good hockey team. That is how you're going to beat these New York Rangers. Those are the only way, especially with the issues that you currently have around the team with losing Desharnais and Holloway. The Edmonton Oilers need to convert on momentum opportunities. The next one being blocked shots. Blocking shots is the second key to victory for the Edmonton Oilers, as the Oilers have been out-blocked in basically nearly every game that they have played in. I did not go through the stats to see how many, but just every time the Edmonton Oilers play, you take a look at the block shots, and the Oilers are out-blocked substantially. The Edmonton Oilers need to help their goalie as much as they can. Again, Desharnais is not there. The ability of taking away the guy in front of the net has significantly lowered for the Edmonton Oilers. So getting in front of as many shots the Edmonton Oilers can, whether it's from shots on the boards, shots from the point, shots in the slot, just getting in front of shots and making it difficult for the New York Rangers to get any rubber on the net will be massive, massive, massive victory for the Edmonton Oilers. And the third key to victory for the Oilers is defensive reliability. The Edmonton Oilers, again, don't have Desharnais. That is a massive hole for them to have to shore up, and that's saying a lot. Like, you hear a lot of praise for Desharnais in this episode for a guy who's played 13 games, but he has done something to this back end that nobody else has been able to for the Oilers, and we saw just how much the Oilers missed him against the Detroit Red Wings. Now you don't have him against the New York Rangers again in this game, a team that is very solid offensively, have great players in front of the net, especially that Chris Kreider guy. Don't know if you've ever heard of him. I know Carey Price has heard of him. So the defensive reliability for the Oilers needs to be amped up. You need to take accountability for your guy. You need to communicate. You need to get in front of those shots. You need to end cycles. There are a lot of things the Edmonton Oilers need to do in their own end without Desharnais in the lineup. That will be a big thing for the Oilers. So the three keys to victories for the Edmonton Oilers in this one against the New York Rangers. The first one, convert on momentum opportunities. The Edmonton Oilers had numerous chances to win that game against the Detroit Red Wings, including a late power play, and they were unable to do so. The Edmonton Oilers were given a power play in the second period against the Montreal Canadiens to tie it up after going down 3-0. And they couldn't. They lost big time there. The Edmonton Oilers face a good team in the New York Rangers, and if they convert on their momentum, it will be a very hard game for the New York Rangers. The second thing is block shots for the Edmonton Oilers. Make it difficult for any New York Ranger to get a puck on net, and the Edmonton Oilers will make it basically will win this game. The Edmonton Oilers are able to block shots. Take a look at what Chris Russell did for the Oilers a couple years ago, or over the last couple of years, and even Duncan Keith. The Oilers are missing out on him. And finally, the third key is defensive reliability. You don't have your best defensive defenseman in Vinny Desharnais, and you can't just rely on Brett Kulak to do the work and Cody Ceci in the back end. You need to be accountable. You need to be communicative, and that is how the Edmonton Oilers will beat the New York Rangers tonight. Alrighty, let's wrap up today's conversation with a little look at the rookies, or at the prospects, I should say. We will take a look at them in just a second. Alrighty, let's wrap up today's episode with the Edmonton Oilers Prospect Report. And one Edmonton Oilers prospect has caught himself in some hot water. I've tried to find out a little more around the situation, but everything seems rather hush-hush. So we'll talk about that in a second, but let's start off in Ontario with Matvei Petrov. All the Edmonton Oilers prospects on today's prospect report will be from the CHL. So starting off with the obvious one, Matvei Petrov is continuing his hot streak this season. 51 games played for Petrov, 23 goals, 53 assists, 76 points. He sits second in the OHL in assists and fourth when it comes to points. He is having a fantastic year. He's on pace for 100 points this year, 30 goals, 70 assists. I mean, this kid is just playing fantastic hockey. You're seeing the development of this kid right in front of your eyes. 3 assists against Kingston, had a goal and an assist, so 2 points against Sarnia. This kid is a point producer. Now, a lot of praise for him right there. However, as I was going through just kind of some of the new stuff that's going around Matvei Petrov, some of the extra stuff that people who are maybe more closer to the situation have been saying, I saw some people saying that Matvei Petrov is increasing his trade stock. I think that's a little bit of a symptom of being close to the trade deadline. Everyone's going, this guy's available, this guy's available, this guy's available. I think the Edmonton Oilers really want to see how Petrov turns out, especially considering you never know what's going to happen after McDavid and Draisaitl head out of here. If they do not up their contracts, you always have to be ready for the future, whether it's a good future or a bad future. You always have to have that next skill guy or the next guy up mentality. And I think Matvei Petrov might be that for the Edmonton Oilers. So, I mean, we're seeing the great offensive development from him right in front of our eyes. It's really been very impressive to see, and very impressive to see his numbers continue to go up. He is slated to have 10 more points than what he had last year, and I believe in less games. So a great season for Petrov over in North Bay. I think I called them the Brampton Battalion earlier. I will never not call them Brampton. But his next game, comes tomorrow, February 18th, when they face off against the Barrie Colts. Now let's come west here as we head to the WHL, starting off with Jake Chiasson, who got traded from the Brandon Wheat Kings to the Saskatoon Blades midway through the year. Now, this is an important stretch for Jake Chiasson, as last year he was a little limited in his playing time. He was coming off of an injury, only played about 20 games for the Wheat Kings. Then he has had a really, really good year to start the year with the Wheat Kings, was traded to a contender in the Saskatoon Blades, and he's been playing top minutes. He's been playing on the top line with the Blades since his trade, and in 17 games with the Saskatoon Blades, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points, so having a productive year with them or since joining them. But you're going to see the Blades go into the playoffs. It's going to be important to see his development through the playoffs, playing in more important games. He's a guy who you don't really know. There's some people who call him a project. I think he's a project. I'm excited to see how this project can turn out. I think he's going to end up in Bakersfield probably by next year, if not the year after. So a very exciting player to kind of keep an eye on to see what ends up happening for him. Now, over the last 5 games, however, it hasn't been a great output for him. 5 games played, 1 assist, 1 point. However, on the year, 54 games played, 14 goals, 27 assists, 41 points. He has the second most points from all Edmonton Oilers prospects so far this year. So, I mean, there's always silver linings there. Let's move on to the most recent first-round pick for the Edmonton Oilers, playing for the Seattle Thunderbirds. That is Reed Schaefer. Now, some interesting news-ish coming out on Reed Schaefer today. However, let's start off with the numbers for Schaefer. 38 games played, 19 goals, 17 assists, 36 points. However, again, only 1 assist for Schaefer over his last 5 games. There has been a lot of optimism, however, around his game. He's still been playing well, just the puck hasn't been going in. But I mentioned there's some news around him. Bob Stauffer said today on Oilers Now, and he had Elliot Friedman on at that time when he said it, and Friedman agreed with him in just kind of an offhand type of situation. He went, yep, exactly. Reed Schaefer, the Edmonton Oilers have apparently fielded calls on Reed Schaefer. Now, I saw a Twitter page. I don't want to say who it was just because it has a similar name to another Twitter page who does really good reporting on the Oilers, and this one has been corrected the last couple of days specifically. But there is a report from them saying that the Edmonton Oilers have been shopping Schaefer around. That's not the case. They've just been fielding calls. More likely other teams, or at least teams that the Edmonton Oilers are engaged in trade talks in, going, how about Schaefer? How about Schaefer? Are you willing to move Schaefer in these deals? So the Edmonton Oilers aren't actively making calls and going, I'll add Schaefer in a deal. They're just in those trade conversations. They'll say, hey, how about this guy? And That's just more of where it is. But I find that interesting, more interesting than the Petrov news. Obviously, Schaefer is a first-round pick for the Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers haven't moved a first-round pick since Jordan Eberle was after Magnus Paajarvi, so or before Magnus Paajarvi, excuse me. So since 2009, essentially. Well, no, I guess Taylor Hall, duh. So since Taylor Hall, the Edmonton Oilers haven't traded a first-round pick. I don't think they're going to give up on a guy like Reed Schaefer this early, especially considering that they traded Zach Kassian and a second-round pick for that deal technically. So I think the Edmonton Oilers are pretty high on Schaefer and aren't willing to give up on him yet. But hey, I think he's more valuable right now than Petrov just due to his playing for Team Canada. He was drafted in the first round. There's basically becoming that first round equivalent, but either way, let's call it there on Schaefer. His next game is actually tonight against the Tri-City Americans. And to wrap up on the final prospect here, Maximus Wanner, as he is the one who has the big news surrounding him, as he's been suspended indefinitely. Him and three other Moose Jaw Warriors have been suspended indefinitely from the Moose Jaw Warriors for breaking code of conduct rules, I believe it was exactly. And Wanner's been having a very good year. 44 games played, 8 goals, 22 assists, 30 points. Those are career highs in all of those in goals, assists, and points. But seeing him get the suspension was tough to see. Now, this suspension came about a week ago for Wanner, and since then, there hasn't really been anything reported on since. So I thought I'd try and get my fingerprints on it, try and see what's really been going on. I tried to poke around some people that are kind of closer to the situation, and even then they were going, I don't know. Everything's been very under wraps, so very concerning to me, especially considering all the things that has gone on in hockey recently. So hopefully everything is okay. Hopefully this is nothing big, but we'll see. It's tough to see from a hockey perspective, considering Maximus Wanner was having a very solid year. I mean, considering he signed his entry-level contract from being a 7th round pick, a lot of chatter of him being a top prospect in the organization, him putting up fantastic numbers. But if you're going to make mistakes off the ice, then everybody knows the repercussions. But of course, there's always two sides to stories. We'll never know until this is all just pure speculation. So take this all with a grain of salt until we do actually know what is going on. Field your opinions or throw your opinions to the side. Wait until everything is out in the open. But either way, let's wrap it up there. The New York Rangers are in town tonight for a 7 o'clock puck drop. The Edmonton Oilers and the New York Rangers, a big-time game. The Oilers activating Kyler Yamamoto will be active in this game, and Dylan Holloway and Vinny Desharnais will draw out. Jesse Puljujarvi still part of the Edmonton Oilers and will dress in this game tonight. We don't know exactly, but we are expecting Jack Campbell to get the start tonight against Igor Shesterkin. But either way, we will have a full recap from tonight's game on Monday. But until then, I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe. It is Ben Stelter. The 50-50 tonight goes to the Ben Stelter Fund. So make sure, if you haven't already bought a ticket, make sure you go and buy a ticket. Last time I checked, it's over $3 million going to a great foundation. And you know how I feel about Ben. Thank you so much, everybody. Stay safe. And hopefully, even if the Oilers don't win tonight, you can play La Bamba, baby.